Hey, I'm Cassie, and this is my channel, Wham Bam. Thank you, ma'am. And I'm hoping to add a little bit of humor to your day. I'm here to talk to you today about some of the weirdest trends from the 90s that us millennials had to deal with. I don't know, we didn't have to deal with them. We loved all these weird trends. I don't know what I'm talking about. Now I look back and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? So the first weird trend that came out of the 90s was the Macarena. Now, I'm sure you know what the Macarena is. If you don't, you need to go look it up immediately. Or I'll show you a clip right here. Hey, Macarena. Macarena dance. Foolish, ridiculous, absurd. There's a whole dance that goes with it, and everybody who knows the song knows the dance. There's just no exceptions to that rule. None. It's kind of a ridiculous dance. Look at this. I remember this way too well. And you just keep doing that around in circles. That's it. That's the whole dance. It's like some ridiculous viral TikTok dance before TikTok was a thing. The Macarena, though, it was something that if you didn't hear it at your high school dance or your aunt's wedding or your cousin's bar mitzvah, the whole day was a total waste. Like, why did I even come? What the fuck was I here for? You didn't play the Macarena. I'm not kidding. Oh my God, Jess, they haven't played the Macarena yet. I can't believe it. That's my favorite song ever. I'll totally die if they don't play it tonight. I think that in the future, when they are teaching about the time period of the fantastic 90s, that this is probably going to be one of the pieces of media that they use, because I have never seen something more 90s than this video. And there's not even a background to it. Just the people alone. Oh, and the most recent thing about the Macarena too is we just realized that the whole song is about a woman who is cheating on her husband with his two best friends. Great song for kids. We would sing it though. Oh my God, I remember people singing it in school, dancing to it. We had no idea what we were saying. We were just spitting words out and thinking we sounded cool. Why, you may ask, was the Macarena such a popular song in the 90s? No idea. We were simple-minded people back then. Life was good, and the Macarena was king. So since the Macarena and the internet came out around the same time, I'm doubting that people learned how to do the dance from the internet. So I don't remember exactly how everybody knew how to do it. I mean, it's pretty basic, but without the internet, you think, how would people know? How would everyone just have an idea how to do it? Like, were they running it on the local 7 News at night? I wish I could remember, to be completely honest. I might have to look that up later, because, like, how? When I dance, they call me Macarena, and the boys, they say que soy buena. They all want me. So now that we've talked about a weird 90s dance trend, let's talk about a weird 90s toy. And I'm talking about a furry, demonic toy. You know what I mean, the Furby, of course. If you haven't heard of the Furby, you've heard of the Furby. Honestly, if you grew up in the 90s and you didn't have a Furby, I'm sorry your childhood was so traumatic. The thing will just wake up in the middle of the night and start talking to you out of nowhere. Scares the fucking shit out of a kid. You're in the middle of sleeping and this thing just goes, ah! What the fuck is going on? I think I've had anxiety ever since. So Furbies were essentially the spawn of Satan, wrapped in a cute, fuzzy, wuzzy little package, so that we could give them to kids and then they could spy on everybody. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I'm pretty sure they were like the first Alexa, but they were geared towards kids. They would just listen and spy, and we know they were listening because as you spoke to them, they learned English. They started off talking just gibberish nonsense, but as you continued talking to them, they learned to speak English. So it's not a question of whether they were listening to us. It's a question of whether they were sending it off to Jeff Bezos or whoever the fuck decided a Furby was a good toy. Now, this was a toy that absolutely everybody had to have. There was a Christmas where that was the toy. And our parents must have just been like, oh my fucking God, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Because as a parent, what are you going to do? You want to get your kid the hottest new toy. but it's a fucking furry demon. Talks, scares the shit out of you, listens to what you're saying, and as annoying as a mosquito that won't get the fuck out of your ear. God, I hope I don't ever have to make a decision like that as a parent. As I was saying, it would eventually speak to you in English. I don't think I ever got mine there. Maybe I didn't know the English language well enough at that point either. But it would talk back to you and blink its cold, dead eyes. And they made a snapping sound of, I don't know, plastic eyes opening and shutting. Of course it's a toy, I get it, but they could have made it a little bit more, I don't know, cute, snuggly. The thing was actually hard. It was covered in fur, but it was a hard robot underneath. If you've never seen a skinned Furby, go look it up. Just not before bed. To us kids, however, this was the most magical, advanced piece of technology we had ever seen. Like shit, it listened to us and learned from us. We had never seen anything like that, except maybe Teddy Ruxpin.
My name is Teddy Ruxpin.
But he was so expensive, I don't think many kids had him. He was kind of a high-class toy, if I remember. Maybe my parents just told me that. Yet, we still somehow got sick of these furry little fuckers and discarded them into the nearby landfill, much to our parents' delight, I'm sure. Speaking of 90s technology, the other weird 90s trend that I wanted to talk to you about is digital pets. I was gonna say Tamagotchi, but there's Tamagotchi, there's Nano Pets, there's Gigapets, and then I think there was a couple other random knockoff brands. There was even some companies that were like Disney that did like character ones, I think. But anyways, digital pets that you had to take care of. So essentially a hunk of pixels formulated to look like a cat, a dog, whatever, the monkey. I think there was a monkey one, and you had to take care of it. You had to feed it. You had to clean up its steaming piles of shit. Yes, I said steaming piles of shit. They were pixels, but they made them look like they were steaming with flies on them. I kid you not, these things never gave you a break. All they did was cry, eat, and shit. You had to constantly be there. It wasn't like a game you could just turn off. It was kind of like Farmville. Remember Farmville on Facebook? You couldn't just be gone for like 3 days and expect your farm to be okay when you came back. All the crops were gonna be dead. Well, the same thing happened with these pets. You can't leave them for more than 10 hours and these things would be dead. We would come running home from school as fast as we fucking could because we're like, oh my God, our Tamagotchis are dying. There's gonna be shit everywhere. We didn't need to worry about that stuff at such a young age. It was teaching us to be parents already. We were fucking 8 years old. So yeah, you would come back and they would be acting like they were starving to death. I mean, 8 hours is a long time to not eat, but you're not starving to death, kitten. And there would be like 6 steaming piles of shit. I don't know any living being that can take 6 huge piles of shit in an 8-hour period. But besides that, let's get away from how it's so not realistic. You just did not want to be the despicable child who killed your digital pet. Like, yeah, maybe it was time consuming, but that was the coolest thing to do when they came out. You needed to be doing that. If your pet died, or your baby, they had babies too, that meant you weren't playing your game. You weren't cool. Honestly, the next time I hear somebody complaining about how millennials are so lazy, Tamagotchi is my argument. Because that was a full-time job taking care of those things. We had to work so damn hard to keep those pixels looking like they were in a breathing, moving formation. All right, so we've got another 90s trend here, and this one is probably not so common. I know the other ones I've talked about are a little bit more common. You've probably heard about them before. Mexican jumping beans.
This odd leaping.
I feel like I had some in my classroom when I was younger in a little jar, and we would just watch them jump around, which is honestly kind of fucked up if you know what it is, but we'll get to that in a bit. When these things were popular, they were popular first in the 70s and then they made a big resurgence in the 90s. I don't think the United States has ever given so much business to Mexico as it did while the Mexican jumping beans were a thing. People were going shitty over these things. It was like the mood ring or, any of these other trends. What the fuck am I talking about? So yeah, they're a small little bean that likes to jump around. Now you're probably wondering, well, how does a bean jump around? Like, sure, it's a living thing, but beans don't jump. That's not how it works. Well, some people believe that that's just how it works, and it is purely magic. So these beans had little tiny moth larvae inside of them. That's why they were jumping around. These things were fighting to live. And we were like, ooh, jump more, jump harder, you fucker. So yeah, back in the 90s, we were essentially just playing with bug-infested beans, and that was the thing to do. So I don't ever want to hear anyone tell me again that people as a whole are dumber now. At least we don't play with bug-infested beans anymore. I don't think. I think this one fooled adults and kids alike. I really feel like there was adults out there that had like little Mexican jumping beans, and every time they had guests over for dinner, they were like, oh my God, you gotta see this. And the guest was like, okay, what is it? And I'm like, so it's beans? Okay, cool, I've got beans in my cabinet at home too. But no, wait. Fuckers, we got me. Fuck. Look. They're jumping, you see that? Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be staying for dessert tonight. Little full. Yeah, thank you. Cool beans. Do you think that's where the phrase cool beans came from? People were looking at these Mexican jumping beans that their friends had, and they were like so disinterested or either super interested, and they're like, yeah, cool beans. I'm looking that up, I hope so. So the next trend of the 90s that I want to talk about is a furniture abomination. Any guesses? It was plastic blow-up furniture. Fantastic. It looked magnificently tacky in any room that you put it in. Because nothing says style and class more than a hot pink plastic blow-up armchair that squeaks every time you run any piece of flesh across it. I mean, I gotta be honest, I did have one. I think it was a purple one in my room, but to be fair, I was also in middle school. I wonder if there were any adults that had these. I was such a naive child, I would have no idea. I really did feel incredibly cool though, sitting in that plastic armchair. I've got my own chair, and I bought it myself. It was only $10 at Spencer's. Yeah. I mean, that's cool, right? You get to buy a piece of furniture at 10 years old. You're like, damn, look what I did. I designed my room, bro. Great, you've got plastic pool floats all over your room. Now, if you had animals, maybe a cat or a dog, this beautiful new home edition was not gonna last long. Biting them, scratching them, tearing them apart. I think animals knew that these things were just god-awful looking and wanted them gone. We were just too in awe of this new fancy thing in our house that wasn't new and fancy at all. It's a pool float. So the other problem with this blow-up furniture trend was the horrific feel that you would get when your warm, sweaty legs had been sitting on this blown-up piece of plastic for a bit. No, not even that long. You could be sitting there just for minutes, and you would get up and it was stuck to your skin, like molded to your skin, and it was like ripping a fucking Band-Aid off. Why did we do that to ourselves? You don't want your skin touching that shit. It doesn't feel good. So this plastic ass holder, really, it's unfair to other furniture to call them furniture. The only thing that this blow-up furniture was really good for was poor college kids that couldn't afford to buy new furniture. But let's be real, how long would a blow-up anything last in, say, a frat house? Moving on, the last 90s trend that I want to talk about today is a gift given to us by the gods of Budweiser beer. There was a Budweiser commercial that came out in the 90s, and it was insanely popular. Everybody knew about it. The What's Up commercials. Fuck, can't believe I did that.
What's that?
So people everywhere thought that this was hysterical. It was just buddies hanging out, saying what's up to each other, talking to each other on the phone. Hey, what's up? Just over and over. And people were eating it up. And Budweiser was coming out with more and more of these commercials. And everyone on the streets was saying it too. Everyone, what's up? And it was really funny at first, I'll admit. I was a kid, of course it's funny. After a while, it was only the men that acted like 8-year-olds. so like 85% of them, that were still doing it. Budweiser kept coming up with new commercials and our ears kept bleeding. Seriously though, the term, "that's fire," doesn't even offend my ears anymore after hearing that again. You kind of looked a little silly doing it too, though. You're almost sticking your tongue out of your mouth while you're like, "What's Dude, you could have just asked what's up. Looking back on these commercials now, they look like they're clips of the movie Idiocracy.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
So this "what's up" would go around in endless cycles. Nobody gave two shits about the answer to what was up. They just wanted to go back and forth and stick their tongue out and yell, "What up?" Which I'm sure was way more fun when you were drunk too. I mean, sure, it was a little weird, but it was also a brilliant marketing strategy on Budweiser's part, honestly.
So what's up, B?
I don't mean to be too harsh. I'm not a party pooper or anything, but I mean, there were some bizarre things going on in the 90s, and I feel like I gotta call them out. I see it the way I see it. So I guess that's all the 90s trends that I have to talk about, or rag on a little bit today. I hope you enjoyed this little nostalgia trip, and if you liked it, please hit the subscribe button, and make sure you come back, because there's gonna be more. Lots more.